Hey, so I'm back with round one with a hand that just seems fine. It's a turn three collected company with an abrupt decay for interaction, a Viscera Sea already in play. So like maybe I'll find an Anafenza and a Kitchen Finks all in my collected company and just like win right away. Not super likely, but not impossible. Looks like I'm playing against Tron, which is probably a really terrible matchup. So that's unfortunate. But this hand has the potential to be really explosive, for sure. But right now I'm just playing a Viscera Seer and attacking for one. My opponent's mulligan, which is good, I guess. I mean, it means it's less likely he has Tron, though it's obviously still very likely my opponent mulligan into a hand with Tron, given how his deck is constructed, and given that he played an Expedition map on turn one. Yeah, so I probably just lose. I mean, not really sure there's all that much to say about this. This is one of those games where it's kind of interesting, or like maybe you want to just like sacrifice creatures to Viscera Seer at end of turn, just to try to scry into something. But I don't think there's anything I can even scry into. Like next turn I'm gonna have 5 mana, and so the only card that makes that makes it like even slightly more likely that I win the game on my next turn is Chord of Calling. And even though like main phase collected company into like Chord of Calling on my opponent's turn for 2 would be kind of nice, and I don't actually need the Bird of Paradise in play to make that the Bird of Paradise in play to make that play. Like it still seems fairly marginal. My opponent has Mindslaver, which is unfortunate. I wish I had a Reclamation Sage in my main deck, though it's obviously understandable that there isn't one. Yeah, so so now I'm not really sure when I want to cast this collected company. I wanted to fetch first because my life total is not relevant, and I wanted a slightly higher chance of just hitting the combo. The messy thing here is that the combo is not actually really good enough. I guess I do want a collected company pre-combat just because sometimes it gets in some extra damage, and I want to use the Wall of Roots because if I do hit an Anafenza, then if I hit an Anafenza another creature, I wanted to put the counter on my birds because I'm likely going to sacrifice Viscera Seer. I was likely going to sacrifice Viscera Seer to itself in response to him activating Mindslaver. Yeah. So another reason to have done that main phase is that I could have hit Noble Hierarch, which would have also been something, and then yeah, basically just that. Now I think my plan in response to Mindslaver is to just decay my own Viscera Seer and then like sacrifice it in response, which is not good. And yeah, it lets me use my Wall of Roots twice, which is obviously nothing. Right, so let's see if I can figure out how to like hold priority while I abrupt decay my Viscera Seer. I think I succeeded. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So I'm just gonna sacrifice Viscera Seer in response to itself, and so I kind of wanted. Part of me just wants to draw the Birds of Paradise here, because like it means it guarantees that nothing can go wrong on my opponent's next turn. Like if I scry into a Court of Calling or like even like a Collected Company, that's probably like atrocious for me. If I scry into something like just like a good creature, like a Kitchen Finks or Restoration Angel, that's much better. But I don't think the probability that I find something like that versus like a Court of Calling or like a Red Cap, which could be pretty disastrous for me, is high enough that I want to put this on the bottom. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna accept that. Because he's Mind Slavered me, I'm just gonna take a bad draw. Yeah, so now like his Mind Slaver turn's like not that impressive. Basically, he's just gonna get to put a counter on my Wall of Roots and say go, which is good, but certainly not nothing like super impressive. And yeah, so on my next turn, I assume he's just gonna just pass my turn here. Assuming he doesn't do anything too scary next turn. My plan, I can just Birds of Paradise, Gavony Township, and get in for 3 damage, which is solid. Yeah, so okay, so she's shocking me. That seems a lot worse than just making me skip my land drop. Like I don't think this game is gonna come down to the 2 damage he inflicted to me this turn. Okay, so my opponent's Dismembering and Afenza on his... I guess this makes sense. He wants to use the mana. Okay, and he's tapping me out. Okay. None of these things are really relevant. I mean, unless he's planning on playing like a hasty creature. I guess they're just like good mechanical things to do, which makes sense. Alright, I guess we'll concede to this, because I can't beat a Sundering Titan. Yeah. I mean, I maybe could have conceivably beat it. So now, like, I would have blown up 3 of my lands. I would have had a Wall of Roots with 1 counter on it. And I would have had no green, so I would have had... I mean, I probably shouldn't have conceded. But I think it was unlikely enough that I was going to win that game that it's not like the worst thing in the world to have conceded there. Yeah, so this matchup's probably just abysmal. I certainly want Thoughtseizes and Reclamation Sage. Probably Maelstrom Pulse. And like, given that I don't have artifacts of my own anymore, Kataki is probably fine. Since he has Dismember, maybe like Sin Collector is also okay. I maybe don't have that many bad cards in my deck, but I also kind of do. Like Scavenging Ooze is Abrupt Decay. Abrupt Decay is pretty bad. It kills like Expedition Map sometimes. It kills Oblivion Stone sometimes. Neither of those things seem sufficiently probable that I want the card in my deck. Kitchen Finks seems terrible. Oars of Pontiff is like obviously terrible. Thoughtseize is good. I think I want the full combo in my deck for reasonably obvious reasons, I guess. Scavenging Ooze is really bad. Eternal Witness is pretty bad too. Like Revelark is also pretty bad. Like he probably has relics. And like it's even not even that good in games without relics. It's like a grindy card in a matchup that's not at all grindy. I think I maybe want to configure my deck like this. Like, part of me wants to just have a Scavenging Ooze or like a Spellskite or something in my deck, just to have another. No, I definitely want Sin Collector because he probably has Pyroclasm. So just to have another, just like 2-drop to play. That's probably bad. I don't mind cutting a Kitchen Finks. It's not like I'll probably have access to that half of the combo anyway. And given that I'm just boarding in 2 3-drops, I think it makes sense to trim 3-drops. I think it's better to trim Kitchen Finks than it is to trim Eternal Witness. Just because Eternal Witness helps me churn through my deck. Alright, this hand's pretty good. It's 1 card away from like a turn 3 kill. And so I think I'm just going to play to that. Not a turn 3 kill, because he can probably actually be infinite life. But like being able to just control the top of my library is also like really strong. Yeah, so the plan here is just to play Birds of Paradise into Kitchen Finks and to hopefully top deck either Court of Calling or Anafenza. Or Collected Company might do it as well. Not the best hand. I mean, it's like, given that it's totally uninteractive, it's not great. Okay, so he's the blue version of Tron. So this is almost certainly better for me. So I still don't think my life total matters. I think I want to fetch... I mean, I can just fetch a swamp. It doesn't really cost me anything to do so. It makes it slightly harder to cast Court of Calling, but I'm likely to fetch green sources with all of these other lands anyway. And maybe it comes down to life somehow. I don't know. I'm certainly just jamming Kitchen Finks. Okay. Successfully jam Kitchen Finks. And then next turn, it depends on what he does. I'm unlikely to just play Kitchen Finks. Maybe I will. Alright, I'm going to start by playing Kitchen Finks. And then, because his main counterspell, his main hard counter is Condescend. And this plays around that. If he plays a Remand here, like, it's not great, but it's fine. Yeah, so now I'm just gonna fetch probably just a Temple Garden. Just because the only double black spell in my deck currently is Murderous Redcap, and just have another black land in my deck. Just gonna get him for 4 damage. Yeah, so still just Anafenza away from comboing. But the beatdown plans seems likely to be pretty strong in this game. Like, the blue Tron deck is not as good at putting Tron together and doesn't have like Pyroclasm type effects. So like generally this game plan of just playing creatures and beating down is much better against them. My current hand is like maybe like a little too anemic even for that, but still okay. Alright, so I'm gonna start by playing Kitchen Finks. There's no reason to like stop playing things here. I probably won't play the Viscera Seer if the Noble Hierarch and the Kitchen Finks both resolve. Otherwise, I'll probably just find a Godless Shrine and play Viscera Seer and Noble Hierarch. I want to keep playing spells because yeah, I don't want to let him thirst for knowledge for free. Basically, if he has a sweeper, it's something like Aetherize. But the Noble Hierarchs let me play around that pretty well. And so yeah, so I'm certainly very happy that I have the Noble Hierarchs in my deck rather than the Wall of Roots this game. And we'll give Magic Online a little bit of time to restart. Yeah, so I really need to draw one of my action spells. I'm not unhappy. Like Revelar certainly like just doesn't even do anything here, so I'm not unhappy it's not in my deck. Though to be fair, like I don't really have many cards that do anything right now. Like there's not a ton of great top decks in my deck. It's mostly just Collected Company would be good. Township would be very good. Township would be very good. Anafenza or Court of Calling are the best draws. Collected Company is the second best draw. So that's just so that's 11 cards that are very good for me. Thoughtseizes would be okay, but nothing like exciting. And yeah, past that there's honestly not very much. I think I might. There's some chance I actually this is a game where I'm actually just like sacrificing creatures to Viscera Seer just to scry. Just because I have the Noble Hierarchs, so I have the Noble Hierarchs, so the first half of my second Kitchen Finks doesn't actually really even add anything to play. Like the first Kitchen Finks is it's 5 damage versus 6 damage. And I think maybe controlling my draw steps is actually more valuable than the additional damage that I would get by leaving this Kitchen Finks entirely together. So I'm just gonna dump my hand. There's like no real reason not to. Like every card in my hand adds some amount of value to the board. And so there's no and his only like sweeper type card is sweeper type cards are gonna be like Oblivion Stone and Ether Eyes, and he's like reasonably far away from both cards. And if he does tap out for an Oblivion Stone, I can scry reasonably aggressively to try to find a Reclamation Sage, or a card that finds my Reclamation Sage. So even then, that's not like the worst thing in the world. I guess given my current hands, I probably just want to leave the Kitchen Finks kind of just unscathed. So my opponent could very easily get something scary. That's not at all scary. That's actually fine, just because the Viscera Seer means I can the Viscera Seer means that I can just like sacrifice creatures indefinitely to prevent him gaining lifelink. Alright, so I'm just gonna chord here. Given that like my Magic Online has an unfortunate propensity to like disconnect and lag and stuff, I'm not gonna be too aggressive with my combo here. I've got 2 Kitchen Finks in play, so it's like my opponent's gonna have like a really difficult time disrupting this combo. And I think my plan here is to just at the end of his turn, well, I guess I have to scry a Chord of Calling to my deck at the end of his turn. Yeah, it'd be nice if I could scry something better, like if I actually had like a Birthing Pod type card in my deck to a Birthing Pod type card in my deck to sort of, I don't know, like kind of lock up the game. But it looks like my opponent's kind of kindly conceding anyway. Yeah, so that's seems decent. So yeah, my deck just seems I'm happier I'm playing this version of the deck than I am that I'm playing the red-green version, but obviously I'm still not thrilled about it. So I've undone my sideboarding. I think I want to reevaluate my sideboarding anyway, given that he's the blue version. All of the discard spells are obviously still really good, and Sin Collector is great. And I think Kataki is likely good enough. And Maelstrom Pulse is definitely good enough. I think I want access to 1 Scavenging Ooze because he has Academy Ruins. So I am going to actually want to have access to that card sometimes. I'm still okay shaving Kitchen Finks. Like, it was like mediocre that game. Like the first one was just like all the power I needed given the Noble Hierarchs. And then I think last time I cut Revelark and the second Scavenge Ooze, and that's how I got to my 60. This time I'm less sure. Given that he's playing the blue version, I kind of want a Revelark in my deck because we're more likely to play a grindy game, but it's probably still too bad. I kind of want to cut Verils just because it's not very good. I can also cut Kataki. I guess Kataki just doesn't really do anything. like he has talismans and stuff, and just having a 2-drop that kind of shuts those down is kind of nice. Just slows him down a little bit. But other than that, I think he probably doesn't actually have enough artifacts that just sit around and play that it's worth having Kataki when I have all these other cards in my deck that I'd rather have. The Viral seems really bad, but I guess it's part of my combo, so I think I should probably just leave it in my deck. This hand's not great. I think it's a keep. Like, I'm like, obviously I can't cast Anafenza, but like I'm reasonably close to the combo if I like get a turn 4. And now that I know he's playing the blue version, I think I'm much more likely to get a turn 4. Though I obviously do need to draw a white source, but I have way more white sources in my deck than black sources by like a sizable margin. And like, I mean, this is like obviously a bad hand. I'm probably just gonna lose, but I think that given that I had 2 combo pieces, 2 combo pieces, a collected company, a township, maybe this wasn't good enough. Yeah, this probably wasn't good enough. If I do draw a white source next turn, I think I'm like actually in pretty good shape, because then I'll be able to Sin Collector him and then just go collected company and probably like hit like a Kitchen Finks and an Anafenza. Okay, so he got an island with his expedition map. I guess that's probably pretty good for me. Alright, so I guess I'm going to start by attacking. None of my creatures really do anything in play. Or none of my creatures really do anything untapped, rather. This does make it like, I can't really meaningfully cast Court of Calling anyway. Wall of Roots is an okay draw, just because it guarantees I'll be able to cast Collected Company next turn. I mean, it's not a great draw, but like it's certainly not the worst draw possible. I certainly wish this Wall of Roots was the Noble Hierarch. That would have actually been very good. Like, I was wondering like whether I wanted the Wall of Roots in the deck at all. I think I also cut a Court of Calling, which makes Wall of Roots a lot worse. Like, Court of Calling is definitely works well with well, having 3 Wall of Roots definitely makes sense with 4 Court of Callings. Alright, so I don't think there's anything that can punish me for just trying to get a Snapcaster here. So that's what I'm going to do. Alright, so white source is good. I'm just going to play it untapped, I think. Just to leave out my Scavenge Ooze. Doesn't cost me very much. And I'm just going to Collected Company at the end of his turn. There's no reason to tap out when he just very obviously has counter magic. If he taps out for another Thirst for Knowledge here, I'm just going to Collected Company in response. There's no reason to leave anything up. I can leave up 2 activations of Scavenge Ooze if I want to at the cost of a Wall of Roots trigger. The Wall of Roots toughness is so irrelevant. Like, I'm like kinda indifferent to it. Alright, so Kitchen Finks is not great. I kind of bricked on Collected Company again. If the Restoration Angel was the Melora that I took out for it, I would have won on the spot. So I guess that's something to keep in mind. That was bad. I should have let my opponent's Thirst for Knowledge resolve. I was just kind of just like, my opponent's tapping out, I want to resolve Collected Company in response. Didn't really even think about it. But yeah, but yeah, obviously should have given it some consideration. But yeah, I mean, I'm gonna brick on Collected Company some percent of the time anyway, and adding a 4-drop and a 5-drop to my deck doesn't actually make it that much more likely. So at the end of his turn, I'm just going to exile Oblivion Stone, I think. Oh my god, he drew Tron, then he discarded Oblivion Stone? That has to be horrible for me. Yeah, I don't know what to say. That seems like a very strange play. Unless he has like another Oblivion Stone or like an Eldrazi or... There's no Eldrazi in cast right now, right? He's got 10 mana? Or like another Oblivion Stone. Oh, so Mindslaver. Mindslaver is odd. He's gonna Mindslaver me, and I'm just going to sack my Viscera Sphere in response. Alright, so at the end of his turn, now I'm going to sacrifice Viscera Sphere. I have to put this on the bottom. Just because I can't let him actually... I can't let him just bring my Viscera Sphere back and then sacrifice my board. And I want to kill his Mindslaver here, for sure. Just because, yeah, Academy Ruins. It was probably bad to kill the Oblivion Stone, too. I was kind of thinking that, I wanted to prevent him from using Academy Ruins on it, but I was going to have it, like, that was going to be an option that was available to me anyway. Yeah, it is kind of nice that he can't fail to find off of Collected Company, right? Or no, he can just cast this and not put anything into play. Alright, so that's a little unfortunate. Well, I wasn't really getting anything anyway. Yeah, I mean, so Mindslaver is good for him. I don't even know if this is like, well, he let me get a land? Or, okay, so he has another sweeper. Yeah, I don't know. Kinda is what it is, I guess. Where's an Eldrazi? There's Ugin. Alright, well, I'm very unlikely to beat that card. Yeah. So... I don't know if there was anything I could have done differently this game. I could have... It was obviously terrible to... to play the Collected Company in response to the Thirst for Knowledge instead of letting the Thirst for Knowledge resolve and then playing Collected Company. But I think that's kind of a small thing. I guess I might as well play on. I don't really have any reason to concede just yet, I guess, other than the fact that I can't possibly win. So yeah, I guess we'll concede. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I had like a fine draw that was like nothing exciting. The hand I kept was probably a bit loose. If I'd kept a slightly more aggressive hand, like a hand with a mana accelerant, I probably would have had a shot of winning. My reasoning was that my Collecting Company was somewhat likely to find me like a Bird of Paradise or Noble Hierarch, which would likely let me then cast the Anafenza, which would put me very close to comboing. I mean, that was kind of true, right? Like, if he hadn't Mindslavered me on the turn that he did, I was going to gain infinite life on the next turn. Which honestly might not have even been, like, good enough. But alright, so I'll probably be back with another one of these soon. Alright, see you then.